Do you use Google? Okay, could you get along without Google for a little while? Maybe a week? I tried that. In fact, I dubbed it Google fasting. Did it a couple years ago, and there's no way I could do that again. It was very difficult to do. I just decided as an exercise to see if I could not use it for a week. And the results were interesting, certainly. And as I said, you can Google for Google fasting and find out exactly what I did at that point in time. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because I've got an email here from Mike, and he wanted to pick my brain and possibly your brain on something. He says, do you feel the power of Google is good for the internet? With one search provider being used so overwhelmingly, there is so much potential for abuse. As we become a society, that's interesting, I want to come back to that word, who gets our news and history over the internet, is Google in a position to filter what we know and how much? I read a while back that a precondition to Google gaining access to China was that Chinese citizens could not have search results returned about the Tiananmen Square incident, and more recently, China blocking access to YouTube in the wake of Tibetan protests. If governments and search engines can wield such power over the internet, they can effectively remake history and shape the issues of the day. Just curious if you had a take on this as someone on the front line of technology. Certainly, Mike, I don't want to get into the deeper political discussions. I'll save that discussion for another day. But it's interesting. We're at this crossroads. You know, forever we've lived in a world that had borders. And the internet is a world that doesn't have borders. I mean, other than your direct line to the internet. That's really your only border. But I could connect with someone halfway across the world as easily as I could connect with someone right down the street. And in some cases, I may have more in common with the person who lives halfway across the world than I do with someone who lives down the street. And I've said that before on several occasions. It's not always the case. But when we have such a open, quote-unquote, society on the internet, and we try to get that to fit inside these existing infrastructures that are pretty much built with these walls in mind, these borders in mind, it's really kind of, well, not just scary, it's potential for anarchy. It's potential for breaking down those borders, and I can pretty much guarantee that a lot of people who are in power are scared. And certainly not just people in government, but people inside of industries that thrived before the advent of the internet. So when we talk about society, how do you define that? I mean, do we have a society here on YouTube? Do we have a society in just being this community at large? I mean, we have these various connections with one another. I mean, we live in countries, we live on this planet, but what happens when the internet goes and connects to the moon or Mars or beyond? Who knows? There are really no borders. Right now, our border is this globe. It's the internet as it exists on this planet. But what happens when we transcend this physical presence to connect with other people? And I mean, like earthlings, if you will. I'm not going way far out there, but again, I'm telling you, we're at this crossroads of hierarchy and no hierarchy. And so, yes, does Google have the potential of limiting what we as internet citizens, netizens, as we've been called in the past, do they have the ability to limit what we see? Certainly. But the moment that they do, something else is going to spring up in its place. Something more open, more transparent. I'm not saying that Google would ever do that. They've right now got to play by the rules of these governments. Is it going to be that way forever? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say no. It's just inevitable. I can see it no other way. Is that scary? Well, potentially. But to me, when I connect with someone online, I mean, I'm really truly connecting with them, their mind, I mean, everything that they are, everything that they appreciate and what we share in common. The last thing I think about is, where do they live? Who are they? What's their background? I mean, I'm interested in their interests and what we share in common. And it's not necessarily location-based or even culture-based. I mean, unless, of course, you count this, affinity for technology as a culture. If we elevate Google to the position where we can't live without them, yes, we run the risk of letting them run us. Is it ever going to get to that point? Potentially. But the internet's pretty big. And you got to understand that Google wasn't around forever. And inevitably, something may replace Google. As much as they don't want to hear that, it's an absolute truth. It's just the ebbing and flowing. It's the life cycle, especially with software and websites and this whole idea of human identity and human connections. So I'm very interested in hearing your definition, if you could put a finer point on how you define society and how you see this playing out. Right now, like I said, kind of sticky. How do you see it? How do you see us moving beyond where we are today to becoming a better group of people? Because that's all we freaking are on this planet. We're just a group of people. Some of us like corn, the others not so much. I'm in the latter half. I really not. That's really, that's how you can divide us. If you want to divide us, people who like corn and people who don't. That's how I see the world, honestly. Just a big group of people. And some dogs. Anyway, thanks, Mike, for bringing up this subject, and I will be very interested in hearing what everybody has to say. Please leave a comment. Swing by the permalink on my blog at chris.pirillo.com. Yes, I am very happy, Shady. Very, very happy, especially to talk about this. I'm surprised you're using that, terminology this late. I mean, it's kind of outmoded at this point. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to be a human being, and I hope you are too. So anyway, you can email me, chris@pirillo.com, no matter what country you're in or how happy you are. And you're also welcome to swing by our website where we're chatting. And yes, it's an open chat room. People come in here, and unfortunately, they say just about anything that they want to say. And we like the people who are good people and tend not to like the people who are bad people, no matter who they are. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. Doesn't matter where you're from. Yes, but we're all in society together. And we even have a secret handshake. You know how it goes? You know how it goes? Well, I'll tell you. Just swing by the chat room. We're live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at live.pirillo.com. Here it comes. We'll see you later. That's the handshake. And I don't know. I'm making